So essentially they're set up for distance vision, not brilliant close up, to be fair. It's the same, that's why dogs and cats for that matter are using their noses when they're in close.
Yeah.
They're probably not got very much in that last sort of bit 16 to 18 inches.
Oh, so they actually can't see that well close up. So it's not that, because I say to people, they're just not eye orientated. They know their nose is better than their eyes, so they just use. So you see a dog like sniffing around here, and the dummy's there.
Yeah.
And the owners are like, it's just fucking there.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, no, but they're not using their eyes. But actually, it's because they actually can't see that well.
They can't see with the same visual acuity.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
it's
have that
interesting.
sharpness of vision.
Hi, I'm Charlie Thorburn. Welcome to The Dog Father. The aim of this podcast is to look at the wider world of dogs and how it's impacted people's lives and businesses. I've been training dogs for 25 years and I love them dearly, and I'm hoping to share some of this with you. Welcome to the episode. I am joined again by Neil Geddes, our regular guest vet. So this is podcast number 2 with you, Neil. The first one we just thanks for coming. Clearly,
Thank you very much.
I hope the wine is up to scratch.
I was going to say, it's a great start.
This is going to be a winter's evening or late afternoon podcast standard. I think is a glass of wine to keep us going. It's absolute pitch black outside, and it's a howling gale. So we're hoping that the doors aren't going to fly open at the sun or in the middle of the thing and blow everything to hell. Anyway, so thank you for coming back. And since we last saw you, we did a podcast with my great friend Shelley, who you've met, who's a vet. So it wasn't that vetty, but it was. We're going to do another one. He's going to be back over in March, sometime February or March. So we're going to do another one with you and him.
Yeah.
And get you together, because that's going to be quite fun. His views from, because two guys, he's a bit older than you, but two guys who've both built up and sold successful vet practices, and you run them in quite a different way, and it'd be quite an interesting conversation. But what we're going to talk about this week is eyes, because you're the eye man. Why eye man?
Why?
And we just want to know the actual truth, really, about what dogs' eyes and what they can see. And there's lots of, there's always this kind of like, oh, they see black and white, or they can see in the dark, or they can see this, or they can see that. Yeah. And Ash and I actually, on the way up to a dog training session on Saturday, were discussing kind of like night vision and foxes and cats' eyes glowing in the dark, dogs' eyes when you shine a big torch on them glowing in the dark, but maybe not quite as much as a fox and a cat. And deer, and we were driving up north in the night, in the dark, for early in the morning, and there's obviously there's sort of deer hopping out the road, and again their eyes reflect, and it was just kind of, we started to have conversations about this, but there's sort of like some key things that we want to know, which is kind of the difference between like what a dog can see. We'll start off with just like daylight, what they can see, or what you perceive they can see, because without actually sticking a couple of Labrador eyes in your sockets and having a look, we're never really going to know. But if anyone knows, you can make a better educated guess than anybody else I've ever met. I would have thought. Yeah. So where would you say, like, I mean, I want you to lead. I want you just to talk about like a human looking at something versus a dog looking at something. Yeah. But before you do that, I want to say what I think, because I don't want people going, oh, he just said that afterwards because he listened to Neil. I want to get it wrong or get it right. But what I think is, from my experience of dogs, is their sort of long distance focused vision is on a par with ours. Yeah. But they don't see the broader picture like we do. And whether that's because they're much more able to focus and tunnel vision on something, because they're just looking at the bird, or they're just looking at a dummy or something. Because if you fire a dummy with a dummy launcher, or you shoot a pheasant that lands a long way away, a good dog will see it as well as an experienced adult, and a young dog will see it as badly as a young child, kind of thing. A young dog will go rushing out and be like a quarter away there and go, oh, I must be here somewhere. In exactly the same way as if I said to my 5-year-old Jack, oh, can you go and, I threw a ball and said, you go and pick it up. He's not likely to go all the way down the bank. Yeah. Whereas Freddie, aged 11, would get further down the bank, if not get it, and figure out to keep going, because he'd have confidence. Jack could just be like, I can't see it. It's there. And as an adult, I would be looking and I'd be like, it is 15 yards to the right of that bush, which is 180 yards away or whatever. And I'd be able to walk straight over to it and pick it up. Yeah. Okay. And so I feel like there's what they are good at is blanking out all the rest of the world, all the people, the cattle, the other pheasants, and they are just like laser focused. Once they're an experienced dog, either that's experienced as a dog in the park who's crazy about a tennis ball, and it just laser focuses, or from our point of view, a dog that watches a bird come over and goes, I know that's hit, and watches it and watches it and watches it and watches it and just fixates on it, and you say go, and they just like,
they're away.
And they're away. So that's my take.
I think you're pretty. I mean, that's pretty accurate, to be fair. I think it's.
That's it. End of the podcast. Like Charlie's right again. We'll all go home. My wife would be in the background going, "Oh, for God's sake, prove him wrong! You're such a dick."
Are we allowed a bit of science? Can we do a bit of science?
I'd love you to do everything technical.
Okay. So we know when you talk about visual acuity, so sharpness of vision.
Okay.
If you and I have got perfect vision with 20/20, that's what they talk about. So you've got 20/20 vision.
Yeah, airline pilots, etc.
Exactly,
20/20 vision. Yeah.
Exactly. So if we are 20/20, when we're basically have no issues with our eyes whatsoever, we are 20/20 visual. A dog that is would be the equivalent is 20/75. So what that means is that
I always thought it was 20/20, one each eye.
No. It's what it means is how much can you see at 20 feet.
Okay.
So what they're saying is that you and I at 20 feet would be able to see the same thing that a dog would see. At 75 feet, we would be able to see as much as they can see at 20 feet. So what we know about dogs is that they have a different setup in their eye to you and I. They don't have as many cones. So on the back of your eye, in your retina, are two sets of photoreceptors. One is for color and acute vision, so sharp vision, and they are called cones. And then there's another set of photoreceptors in the back of your eye called rods, and they're really good at movement, and they are really good at seeing dim light.
Okay.
So, and dogs and to be fair, cats have 6 times as many rods as you and I. So
they can see in the dark, kind of thing.
They have so much. They are brilliantly sensitive to movement, and they are brilliantly sensitive to dim light and movement at the periphery of their vision.
Okay.
So a photon of light comes through your eye, is basically concentrated onto your retina via your cornea and your lens. So it's basically focusing that light beam right onto your retina. That retina then responds to that photon of light by creating an electrical charge. That charge goes up your optic nerve and gets to the visual cortex, which is at the back of your head.
Okay.
As you get older, that processing with the visual cortex gets better and better. So when you're a child, you still see all those things. But
you can't figure them out.
But you have no idea what that meant. You just know it went, and then you're like, that was amazing, right?
Yeah, and one of the things I say quite often in a lesson with someone when I'm talking about like a young dog explaining something to a young dog, so big arm movements, if you want them to go to the left or to the right or come to me, big visual movements. It's a little bit like if it was daylight and I saw a red kite, which we have a few here flying past, to be like, oh look, there's a red kite. You would go ting, bird flying, big bird. Clearly, even if you know nothing about birds, you go, clearly that's the bird Charlie's talking about, and you go, oh yeah, how interesting. Whereas a 5-year-old kid would be, where's the kite? Where's the red kite? I can only see a bird, Daddy. They're like, it's not that he doesn't see it, but if I did want him to see it, I'd very much have to be like, look, it's up there,
So
and really clearly explain it so he could see it.
Yeah.
And it's not that he can't see it.
No.
It's that he doesn't have
he can't
process that whole kind of.
That's right. Yeah.
And he can, but he can't do it as quickly as we.
No, and he doesn't have the experience. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a positive effect to that
and dogs are very similar. Young dog,
Yeah.
you throw something and they're like, and they don't. Whereas an older dog, you throw something and they're like, ready to go because they've got that experience.
And it's their reward too, isn't it? So it's not just the fact that they can see it and process it. When they bring it back, that's a massive deal, isn't it? So essentially they're set up for distance vision, not brilliant close up, to be fair. It's the same, that's why dogs and cats, for that matter, are using their noses when they're in close. They've probably not got very much in that last sort of 16 to 18 inches.
Oh, so they actually can't see that well close up. So it's not that, because I say to people, they're just not eye orientated. They know their nose is better than their eyes, so they just use. So you see a dog like sniffing around here and the dummy's there, and the owners are like, it's just fucking there.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're like, no, but they're not using their eyes. But actually, it's because they actually can't see that well.
They can't see with the same visual acuity.
Yeah,
They don't
it's
have that sharpness of vision. So and the other thing is that they're obviously, dogs are dichromatic, not trichromatic. So you and I have got.
I don't know what that is.
So what that means is that we've got 3 different receptors of cones in the back of our eye. One that responds to green light, one to red, one to blue.
Okay.
Dogs don't have that. So dogs are red-green colorblind, which is the same as 10% of humans. So my son, we go shopping, he's like, what color is that?
Okay.
Like he picks it up and I'm like, well, you picked it up because you must like it. He goes, yeah, but I
ironic,
think it's...
the eye specialist son can't see colours.
And you go, I think it's a grey. I'm like, it's not, but there we go.
Okay.
So it's
so red and green, they can't see it, or they don't see it as a difference.
They don't see it as a difference like us. So they would see they would see color intensity, but they wouldn't. Often a lot of that for them is brown. It's not.
You couldn't necessarily teach them to pick up the red one or the green one. They just go and pick one up.
They just go and pick one up, to be fair, unless they're different brightnesses. So if you had a dull red and a bright green, they would know to differentiate between the two. So what they see is they see blues, they see yellows, they see browns, they see greys.
So they're not colourblind.
No, they're not.
They just have less colour ability than us.
And you and
I read something this morning about, completely randomly, the fact that it came up, but I read something this morning about like 1 in 500 million people can see way more colours than you and I can.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, how do I know I'm not one of those 500 million? I want to be one of those. Maybe I am. Maybe I see things differently. I mean, I clearly can't. But
that's right.
Something like that. 1 in 500 million see way more colours than we do.
Yeah, that's right. So you can either get on the ultraviolet end of the spectrum, or you can get infrared, and that is just amazing. Like birds, this idea of like they have all that bright plumage because they can actually see all of that plumage, and they can see beyond it too. So you're like, wow, but not us.
Yeah, amazing. Not you and me,
Not
and definitely not your son.
Definitely not my son, bless him. He was very happy, but is just never quite understood why. We were a bit like, I don't understand why he doesn't get it. So he was like orange.
So what's the orange? I know we're talking about dogs mainly. We touched on cats, but when you look at American hunters or European hunting people, they've got lots of orange in their camouflage.
Yeah, they do.
So we can see them, but the animals can't.
That's right, exactly.
But they can't see it at all.
Yeah, so they would see.
Or it just looks the same as the brown.
It looks the same as the brown.
So it's purely. It's not that they can't see the orange. It's that you could be wearing brown mixed camouflage.
Yeah.
And that has as good an effect as orange mixed camouflage, but the difference is the orange, we can see it miles away.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's safer for us, but it doesn't make any difference to the animals.
That's exactly it.
And so dogs can't see that. Deer, they're on the same sort of.
Same.
They've all got similar kind of.
They're very dichromatic. So there's very little in the way of both the prey species and the carnivores who can see anything further than that. So.
Okay. And are there some breeds of dogs that have a better, are their eyes the same or are they different? Like are there some that are closer to being wolves that can see more in the dark?
Yeah.
And some that are a bit more like, a chihuahua with the big goggly eyes that can't see shit. I mean, I don't know.
No, there's a bit of that. And there's definitely this idea that the little tiny dogs are myopic, so they're short-sighted. There's some suggestion that maybe Rottweilers might be myopic too, but I'm not.
So short-sighted.
Short-sighted. So basically, have very poor focus outside of a very narrow window. So within 3 or 4 feet of their end of their nose, they're like
they can't see much.
It's a blur.
Oh, really?
No idea. And so, but equally, sight hounds. So all the kind of greyhounds, all those Salukis,
Afghans and Salukis.
Afghans. They have an amazing sharp vision, very good distance vision as well. So pick things up on the horizon, track them immediately. Wouldn't miss.
Oldest known breed of dog to man, Afghan.
Is that right?
You know that? No. Is it Afghan or Saluki? Sorry, Saluki. Saluki, sorry.
Yeah, but
I only found that out
it's just
a few weeks ago through a slightly unusual person who came to visit.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting. They were like there's a lot of talk about them with the Egyptians and stuff, pharaohs and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're all Salukis. Yeah. It was quite interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that at all.
I just think it's amazing when you see them out, in a pack like that. You're like, it's incredible. But it's just. So there's definitely this idea so that's why you got so careful about it. You wouldn't let your greyhound off in the park or anything like that because it picks up things at 200 yards away. And so grab somebody.
Once they've learnt that, then there's no stopping it.
We've had that before where we were walking back across the meadows as students actually, and this greyhound was loose in the meadows in Edinburgh. Yeah. And then there was just this terrible screaming. And we were like, what? I don't know what's going on. And it was dark. So we went, what's going on? And it had spotted a Yorkshire Terrier and grabbed it from this woman.
Oh Christ! That was the end of the Yorkshire Terrier, was
Well,
it?
it wasn't very pretty, but it was actually okay in the end. But it was like, but it was this.
Did you rush over? Going, it's okay, I'll bet.
Students. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah. So essentially, the little dogs are if you if you try and work out what their where they are in terms of prescription, they're often myopic, so they're often a bit short-sighted.
Okay.
The big dogs, especially the dogs that were meant for like the hunting dogs, are have got fantastic vision.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that from my experience, there's definitely the dogs that work at range definitely see further. Like a Labrador marks better than a Spaniel.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they see,
Yeah.
they mark. Now you could put that down to the fact they focus a bit more, whereas a Spaniel's a bit more like,
Well,
they're looking everywhere.
yeah.
But I do actually think that a Labrador has the ability to see things consistently at a further distance and go and find them, whereas a Spaniel will always, as a general rule, there are some obviously the exceptions, a bit like there are with people. There's always the exception to the rule, but as a general rule, Spaniels always fall short of a retrieve.
Yeah, I think that's right. And there's this idea that if you're a dolichocephalic dog, so a dog with a longer nose, you're more likely to have better eyesight.
Oh, okay.
So this idea of the shorter we made them, and the more that we changed their eye conformation relatively, the less they were able to.
So pugs can't see it.
No, but
Can't see.
so
It's like bump into their own dog bed.
There is a bit of that, isn't there? And we definitely see them sometimes. You think, you can see me. I know you can see me, but,
See
but
something.
not too far.
The big goggly eyes that like one sneeze, I think they'll pop out.
Oh no, it's terrible, isn't it? And when you look at those, so we would get the MRIs back now for their skulls and stuff like this, and there's like, how does it even stay in their head? It's just it's only the eyelids. It's kind of keeping
them in.
Yeah.
So a good sneeze and they really would fall out.
Oh yeah, and we found that before. Where owners come in with the dog went out into the back garden, came back in, and its eyeball is hanging on its cheek, and you'd be like, but how is that?
I mean, I'm pretty thick-skinned. Like, I don't find gruesome and stuff. But with a dog running around with its eyeball hanging out.
And still happy, still kind of, you're like, oh my goodness, well, okay.
Wow. What,
So you can put it back.
You can put that back?
We put it back, yeah. As fast
as you can.
Yeah, because you stretch the optic nerve, so the nerve that runs from the back of your right brain.
Their eyesight's even worse.
That's your dad.
They're done. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So
that's pretty gritty. Okay. So the guys generally came up with some questions, and actually what color they see, what do they see best? So when we're training with our dogs, we've got, I mean, a licorice, all sorts of dummies, because we, to be honest, we very kindly get sent dummies by companies.
Okay. Yeah.
Here's our dummies.
Yeah.
White ones, red ones, green ones, dark green ones, orange ones. Odd blue one, not very common. No, would a blue be a good colour?
So blue or a yellow would be the one, wouldn't it? Really?
Oh yeah, okay, that's really. So if we want them to see them, blue. If we're chucking a dummy at a distance,
Yeah.
like if we were standing up against the forestry over there, chucking a yellow dummy up in the air with a bit of a contrast, we're on the money there.
Perfect. I know it's still the case that the dog is more stimulated by the movement of it, rather than the actual colour. So even
we scan somewhere and we see a movement. We scan across the field, we don't see the deer, then the deer takes 2 steps forwards. I'm like, oh, there's a deer.
And you and I don't have the same flicker as a dog, so a dog processes images much faster.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, much faster. So at least twice as quick as we do. So they get twice as much information as we do.
Do they? Because I always say to people, if you're paying attention, you are going to see the problem before your dog does, because you're looking for it and you've got the brain capacity.
Yeah, and if that is,
but you've got the brain capacity, but you don't have the eye. Actually, the dog's eyes
they're processing
quicker,
much faster.
So they're processing a deer at the other end of the field. They're seeing it and they're like, ching ching, there's a deer before we are. But we are actively. What I try to persuade people to do is actively walk into the field or the woodland and keep an eye out for the deer. Whereas the dog is not, unless it's a sight hound and it's learnt.
Yes.
Obviously, there's dogs that have learnt. I go to this wood, I look for deer. Then they're just the dogs on a lead.
Yeah.
But people whose dogs are just like, oh, deer, happy go lucky. Yeah. Then we've got to pay attention. There was a dog here for training recently, and Ash was training. He was a German short head pointer, and they're obviously kind of more in tune for deer than most of the other gun dog breeds, because they are slightly more hound, like much more prone to like chasing deer than a Labrador or a Spaniel is really. And Ash said, you walk into that field and that dog has gone deer before Ash has even blinked. That dog's gone clock, clock, clock. And he's like an 18-month-old dog, and Ash was like, whoa, you know your deal.
Yeah, yeah.
And now he's got that. There is no stopping that dog doing that.
No.
But if the owners had been more aware of paying attention when the dog was younger, the dog wouldn't have known. They don't have the mental capacity to go into a field and go, there might be a deer when they're 6 or 7 months old. No. They would see it if it moved, but there might be a deer in here. I'm going to look for that deer and I'm going to get control of my dog.
Yeah. And
so that's really interesting, because that's actually very much something I say which is completely wrong, which is we will see it because we're quicker, our brains process quicker, etc., than your dog. But actually we don't. No. But we do have the ability to know that we are going to that field.
Yeah.
The dog doesn't know we're going to that field. And when we get to that field, have a bloody good look around quickly, while the dog's still like, oh, I'm in the field, I'm getting the lead off.
Yeah.
If you've got a really smart dog that's on it,
really smart dog,
they're just going to go in and go clop.
They would have seen it.
Like the sort of the I'm sure you come across some of them in Fife, some of the sort of the old coursing guys in Fife with their dogs. I mean, those dogs are smart. Like they get out the back of the car and they're like, there's a deer at 300 yards. They're just on it before we've even shut the boot, and they're like,
and that whole idea that yes, we've got better visual acuity, so we can see a sharper image, but they've seen the motion long before we've seen it. If it's a tall, dark, or if it's in the periphery of our vision, we're very unlikely to get it. Whereas they're like, I have this, I know exactly where theirs is.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So it just means that they're built for, they're just built for different things.
I mean, I've already got a list of notes. I've got yellow training dummies on order. So anyone who sends us training dummies, yellow, please. Especially helpful for the young dogs.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually, all those people that I've said pay more attention. Yeah, you can give me a slap next time you see me and say, you should pay more attention.
Well, there's knowledge as well, isn't there? That's the thing you can't.
We've talked a little bit about daylight compared to us.
Yeah.
Nighttime, there is no comparison. They are streaks ahead of us.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the what were you talking about? The cones at the rods.
Yeah,
they've got way more rods than us.
6 times the number of rods that you and I have got.
And just as an example, does a cat have more than that?
Yeah.
So a cat has.
They're talking about 7 or 8 times as many.
Is there anything better than a cat?
I would imagine
cats are up there, aren't they?
Yeah, I think.
But like wild cats,
as it were, as in hunters, aren't they? So,
but I mean, a cat that's above that is literally going to be just a cat that's more in tune with its wild, like a Scottish wild cat.
Yes, I was going to say.
Or an actual like a
puma or something. Yeah, exactly. And we've got so they've got the advantage because they can create this massive pupil because they've got this ovoid pupil to begin with. So when they dilate that, it's enormous. Yeah. And then coming back to what you said, they've all got this shiny layer beneath the retina called the tapetum, which is what you see.
Oh, which is what we see when we're the reflective layer. So we shine when we shine our headlights or a lamp or a torch, we see the reflective layer. Whereas we shine them on our eyes, people are like,
we
don't have any of that.
Yeah, we don't have any of that. And so
what does that layer? What does that shiny layer do?
It bounces the light back.
So it bounces the really bright light out.
Yeah, well,
to kind of stop it blinding them, or
no, it's more to do with this idea of in very dim lighting conditions, it means that you get 2 goes at the 1 photon of light. So as the light passes through your eye and hits your retina and stimulates your photoreceptors, it then passes through your retina onto the other side, hits the tapetum, and then bounces back through the retina again. So you get 2 goes at 1 bit of light. So every photon of light,
they get 2 goes.
They get 2 goes.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like the I don't know, like the ozone layer. It's almost like like the atmospheric layer where the light gets bounced back in again.
Yeah. So and if you've got a tapetum, then you are like in terms of nighttime vision, you are just head and shoulders above everybody else.
So you ever put on a set of night vision goggles, military grade night vision? Yeah. Like, what do you think when we're wearing those compared to a cat in a dog or a cat in the dark?
No, because we don't have the rods. We still don't have.
So they can still, even if we're wearing them and they're not wearing them, they still seem better than us.
Absolutely.
Oh wow, okay. Because I mean, I've done some. I was in the TA and stuff, and always going to join the army, and I worn those, doing some fun stuff sometimes. And I've got friends who've got rifle scopes with night vision and infrared and stuff like that. Yeah. But I've worn night vision, SAS type goggles, and run around in the dark, and I mean, you see quite well.
Oh, yeah, but not.
But a dog can still see way better.
Much better.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So And I always think if I'm out with my dogs and it's nighttime and they suddenly buck up, I'm like, all right, there's something there. Yeah, I can't see it, but I know. But I'm,
Yeah. So it's actually amazing. More of us don't lose our dogs in the dark.
Yeah, I think that's right.
As in, because there's going to be more activity wildlife-wise,
for them. Yeah,
and they're going to be like, well, there's a deer over there.
Yeah, exactly.
And we haven't got a clue, so we haven't got the opportunity to go, no, leave it.
Yeah, but they still look to you, don't they? So they're still looking
Some
to you.
people's dogs do. I don't know. We're catering to the masses here. Some people's dogs do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think if my dogs saw a deer in the dark, they'd do exactly the same as they do in the daytime, which is that's a deer. That's nothing to do with us. We'll carry on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, someone whose dog is like, I see a deer, mum's watching me, or dad's watching me. I'm not going to do anything. When suddenly they're in the dark.
Yeah.
They're like, well, they're not watching me. They're fumbling around in the dark, trying not to trip over their own shoelaces.
Yeah. It's always. So that's that whole thing about for us.
So they can. The point is, they can actually see really quite well in the dark.
Yeah, really well.
Yeah, which is I was never really. I just sort of like, we went. So Freddie and I went duck flighting the other day above Stirling. So to anyone watching, duck flighting is I mean, I don't even know if you know what duck flighting is.
Actually, I don't.
So duck flighting is you have a little splash on the top of the hill, and the ducks tend to hang around on the bigger lakes or the rivers.
Yeah.
And then at night they'll fly up, generally to the hills.
Okay.
To a little pond.
Yeah.
And feed and just hang around, and then in the night or first thing in the morning they fly off and they go back down to the bigger lakes.
Okay.
I don't know enough about ducks to tell you why they do that, apart from obviously the ones where we do it, we put a bit of food out and encourage them to do it.
Yeah.
So it's a little pond, I mean, 3 times the size of this room.
Okay.
And Freddie and I were sitting here, gamekeeper was sitting over there, and the owner of the pond was sort of sitting over there, and he invited Freddie to come up, and I went with Freddie. And we're sitting there, and it gets darker and darker and darker, and to the point where we can just see that the ducks are coming in. We see them on the silhouette on the skylight. They go into that. We can't see them in the water, and then we see the silhouette going.
Yeah.
And it's really hard.
Very.
Really hard shooting for an adult, even let alone an 11-year-old kid who's. And Freddie did well. It's really exciting. You don't get much, but you kind of. It's suddenly like that. You're sitting there. It's freezing cold. Suddenly they're there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, and then they fly off again. Especially if they're teal or something, they're super fast.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and got dogs sitting next to me, and I'm like, what can they see? And they're sitting there. They can see this guy. They can see this guy. They can see this guy's dog scratching his ear.
Yeah.
They can see the ducks flying around. They can see the ducks on the water. They're just like, what are you doing? I mean, they literally must be thinking, what are you doing, you morons?
Well, it's a bit like
when it's daylight, you'd be shooting them, and then it's dark, and you're just sitting there.
Well, I think
and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, there's one. And and the dog, I could just see Chino sitting there going, what's wrong with him? They're just flipping there. They flew in, they're on the water, they're flying off again, and you're then shooting at them, and they're 80 yards away because you've only just seen them.
Yeah. That's exactly, and I think that's exactly what he thinks. He probably just thinks,
I just don't get it. Give me the bloody gun. They let you loose with the gun. I thought you were meant to be the intelligent species. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can. That's cool. You sort of talked about it, but I'm just going to go through this list so everybody shapes and because this is very much geared to gun dog training.
Yeah.
So we shapes and sizes and is there any?
I don't know.
It's just the movement.
I think it's movement. It's all movement because they have movement. So not
because we'll pelt a tennis ball or a golf ball, and they'll see that, and we'll take out a big hair-sized dummy and throw that. It doesn't really make any difference.
No, it doesn't.
So it's a bit like us. If you see something, we're going to see a golden eagle floating gracefully across the sky easier than we're going to see a teal skipping around.
Yeah.
But if we're looking in the right direction, we're going to see both of them. Aren't we?
Yeah, you are, and it's not. As far as I know, there is no evidence to suggest that one shape is better than another.
No. Okay. We've got kind of the conversation about sort of eyes, damage to eyes, seeds and grit and thorns and stuff in their eyes. Now, I've had 2 pretty serious incidents that you've looked at for me over the last. I mean, moss would be. I got moss in 1998 or something like that. And so moss out on a shoot ran into a thorn and then backed out again. So it wasn't in there.
No.
But for the rest of his life, I could see a scar in one of his eyes, just slightly off his pupil.
Yeah.
And came to see you, and you gave him some drops, and you said, kind of, there's nothing in there.
Yeah.
It is what it is, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
Oh, but didn't see it.
No, I'm just. No, of course, you get great.
You sure it wouldn't?
Great care. But what I mean is that what you said was there's nothing we can do about it.
No,
but we need to monitor it and make sure there's no like ulcers form or anything else.
Yeah.
But you gave me some drops to prevent any infections and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And see how we go, and you saw him again, whatever, a month later. It didn't get any worse, it didn't get any better. It was what it was.
Yeah.
I didn't honestly see any difference with him.
No.
But that was a proper. I mean, I've had dogs obviously clearly like get stuff in their eyes.
Yeah.
But he was a very, very strong, mentally strong, physically strong dog.
Yeah.
I mean, he cut his boys' bits open on a fence, didn't blink. I stapled them together, no anesthetic, like, out on a pigeon shoot, like not bothered. He cut his ear about an inch on a fence, didn't bother him. He ripped sort of flappers, that kind of flap in there. He ripped that on a fence once. I was obviously young and bit like, my dog will jump the fence. I'm a bit more careful. I haven't had anything like that for years. But in those days, I was like, my dog can do that. So ripped his flank.
Yeah.
Didn't notice until like someone was like, oh, what's your dog's? I was like, oh, dog's got a bit of like red underneath, and flipped him over and like, It wasn't. He didn't have his guts out. It wasn't really bad.
No,
but it was just
skin. Yeah.
pretty nasty.
Yeah.
But never blinked. But when he ran into this thorn, he yelped. Like he was 50 yards away from me, and it was like properly like proper yelp. One very, very sharp yelp. And I ran over to find him, still hunting. He's a spaniel, so he's back into it.
Shut one eye.
Shut one eye. And he did. He literally shut his eye. And when I came to you, you had to like knock him out and peel it all open, basically, because they're all there. Because they've got lots of. That's another thing that's not on this. All the eyelids. Three eyelids.
Yeah.
So that's pretty greedy, isn't it? How come they've got three?
Well, I think because we would have. We almost have three. That little dot in this middle of the corner of your eye nearest your nose. That was your third eyelid. Was it? When you were before you
primate or whatever.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you had three eyelids too. You just
what's the purpose of them?
Protection. So the idea is that as you pull your eyeball back, and you've got a retractile bulbi muscle. So if you suddenly get a really noxious stimulus to your eye, your eyeballs pull back, and your third eyelid comes around in front to protect it. Okay. So this idea that you've got the two eyelids to protect it, but you've also got this third one as well.
So when an eye gets damaged and their third eyelid comes over, it doesn't go back.
It depends.
I mean, this one didn't.
No,
like you then did this to him, and his eyelid is still very. So his body knew that he was damaged, and it was like, we're staying till we're fixed.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's right. They don't want to. So if you've got noxious stimulus continuing, i.e., ocular pain, which is the same pain as toothache, so it's okay. So if you've got the nerve that supplies your eyes, the trigeminal nerve, and there's three branches. One goes to your eye, and one goes to your teeth, and it's exactly the same pain. It's like
constant.
Yeah, it's just horrific pain. So and so if you have a painful eye, as a dog or a cat for that matter, you pull your eyeball back and you pull your third eye around in front, and it stays there until the pain
will heal. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit like you break your arm.
Yeah, you're going to pull it in.
You're going to do that. You're going to hold it there until you feel better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So his eyelid came across.
Yep.
You probably knocked him out, I guess.
We gave him quite a lot of local anaesthetic drops to try and freeze it so that he can actually...
But basically you peeled it back manually to see if whatever had gone in there was out again.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you were like, there's nothing in there, so it went back over again. And he wandered around with his eye like that for a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even if you give them, really strong painkillers and give them drops as well, it's still a really sore eye.
Really sore, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, after that, he healed. I didn't see any sort of long-term changes in him. I could see the scar.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of scar tissue around it. You could, it might have affected his vision a bit, but he cracked on. Didn't make any difference.
I think if you don't get it in that visual axis, so that the central 6 or 8 millimeters of your eye, so what corresponds to your pupil essentially. Okay. If you get it out of the periphery, it's very unlikely it's going to make a much difference to your vision.
And then a very similar scenario, Black Labrador called Zeus. Mm-hmm. And it was on a shoot just down here, and he similar thing, went for a bird, a stick. I think it was a bigger stick.
Yeah.
Went in again. Nothing was in there, but his eye basically, like, I mean, I always say to people, his eye died. Like, it swelled up a lot.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay. So
it swelled up a lot, and then eventually it kind of that at one point there was like the eye might have to come out.
Yeah.
And it didn't. It then shrunk back down, but it was like a kind of, you could clearly see the whole eye. There was nothing happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was just one big scar tissue.
Yeah.
It had gone kind of slightly grey, opaque. There you go. There's the word. And he was probably the best marking dog I've ever had. So I was sitting on a shoot at our doggy next door to us here, and a bird came over, and a couple of guns in front, really, really high. A couple of guns in front shot it and wounded it. And then my host and I, chap who owned the land and I, who ran the shoot together, we both had a crack at it. And as it went, it had a broken right leg and a broken left wing, or vice versa. Not a good one for the antis, but the story ends well. In terms of, and this bird was high, and it was just off into the distance we were standing with our backs to a conifer block. Yeah. And he was just like, he saw this bird, and there was a 5-bar gate behind us, and this was before he had his eye accident. Yeah. And I straight away, as soon as the bird went out of sight, I just said go. Yeah. And he took off down this ride and was gone. And I turned around, carried on. Yeah. And Darren looked at me, he was like, bird's gone for miles. Like, you're never going to find that. And I was like, I bet you'll find it. Yeah. Anyway, it came back, and I took the bird and dispatched. It was still alive, so I dispatched it straight away. Yeah. And I took the bird, and before looking at it, I looked at Darren, and I was like, broken, and he was like, right leg, left wing. I was like, right leg, left wing. A phenomenal dog at that. It was it was a little bit on the edge in terms of a bit of a handful. Yeah. But situations like that, he would go 400 yards. Like you'd shoot a wounded bird and just say go, and he would just be gone over the horizon, and he'd come back with it. Yeah. Whereas most dogs would give up. He just had that sort of drive and determination. Yeah. So that ability definitely reduced. But it was interesting because he kind of almost like taught himself again, because to start off with, for a while, I wouldn't let him jump anything. No. Because he would miss jump stuff. And,
well, that makes sense, doesn't it? You need binocular vision, because
he then like figured it out, and I don't know how. And a bit like, I guess we would. My sister's godfather lost an eye in a fairly classic bloke wood chopping accident. Splint went in his eye, and he wore an eye patch. And of course, as a kid, I thought he was cool because it was my dad's best friend who was a pirate. She's still alive, Jamie McNeish. And Jamie wore an eye patch, and once he kind of, when I was being a little brat, he did that. And there was this sort of just fairly horrible looking thing underneath. I was like, but he could drive. He still shot. He could do things. One of my friends is absolute prolific game shot and is blind in one eye. Wow. And he drives. He
does okay.
He does, but he can. God, he could shoot. Yeah. I mean, better than. And yet, lots of people, when you're shooting, lots of people talk about both eyes open because it helps you. Yeah, yeah. And this guy completely bucks that trend. So it's interesting. We learn to.
You learn. Yeah, exactly.
We learn to adapt. But those are my two kind of big incidents. From even if it's not a working dog, a dog that is working by as a breed, ancestrally working dog, who is and I presume these are the ones you probably see more problems with. Always. Spaniels, Ender spaniels with shit in their eyes.
So under corneal foreign body, if you're an undergraduate and you go to our lectures on, it says corneal foreign body, it says working dog, it says less than 5 years old, it says English Springer Spaniel, English Cocker Spaniel.
Yeah, that's top of the list.
By a countryman.
So from as an owner or owners of these dogs, like what is the best? You can't stop them running around on them. That's just what they're going to do. Yeah. So I feel like it's probably something you would do afterwards. Like I certainly hanging out with my friend in America. Yeah, he would always have like saline solution in like a squirty bottle. Yeah. Exactly. So he at the end of the day, I mean, I always thought it was a bit brutal, but he'd be doing this and.
Yeah, I know.
Cleaning the dog's eye is
it's a really good thing to do.
And then he would just put drops in. I didn't know what the drops were.
Yeah, so maybe
but he would put
antibiotic.
He put some drops in, and it might have even just been a bit of like almost like
artificial
artificial tears, like moisturizer almost. Yeah. He'd just go squish, squish, do that, and then by the time we got home an hour later after the shoot, dogs are like, yeah, fine. Whereas I've come back from shoots over the years, and the dogs spend the whole evening in the dog bed like this. Yeah. And you're like, oh God, I feel guilty, and they're like, yeah, we had a great day though, Dad, but I'm just not going to look anymore. And they wake up the next morning, they're fine generally.
That's right, because your tear film eventually will rinse.
But the best thing would be straight away at lunchtime, at the end of the day, give them a bloody good clean.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, do you know of like? I mean, he had these kind of.
Well, you can buy them, can't you?
Can you?
Yeah, you can buy like the human ones. You can
they're like a kind of like this size. Yeah. And they're not an aerosol can, but you press it and it squirts out.
Yeah.
Like squirty cream almost.
Yeah, I think you've got to be a little bit careful with that. But you certainly can get them so that it's not just a single drop that comes out. You can actually get a flow coming out.
You can.
So they twist. You can.
Yeah. So his would squirt. They weren't like firing. It wasn't like.
No.
But it was coming out enough that it would sort of like do that, and he would just give them a good rinse. And I mean, he would use a tin after a day's shooting with sort of 5 dogs.
Yeah.
A tin would be gone on the 5. By the time we've done the 5 dogs, the tin's gone. A squirt of something in their eyes, and that was us on the way home. I mean, he had access to all this stuff, but is that something we should like? Should we just keep stuff like that in the the car and just do it at the end of the day, just the standard, just wash them out,
and then put a blob of,
especially like heather and things. There are lots of little stuff, dust and seeds,
and it
and
all
stuff.
gets caught in that lower conjunctival fornix, or behind your third eyelid. So if you can do that, and then follow up with a blob of some sort of viscoteer, carbon or gel, one of these artificial tear gels.
And that's just like a thing you can get in the chemist, almost like I mean, that's just for people who have dry eyes.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just buy that.
But that's definitely like you would advise.
I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to do at all.
Okay.
Because I think
it's got to, even if it doesn't necessarily long term help them, it's got to make them feel better that evening, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And
I mean, I haven't, to be honest, I've not had it for a while, but I don't work my dogs as hard as I used to.
Yeah.
But I mean, I used to come back from some of the shoots in Fife, and 2 or 3 of my dogs just be like that for the evening.
I just think, well, the thing is, you love your dogs. So if I'm you, I'm saying to you, please flush their eyes out and maybe give them some Metacam or something that night because
you'd even give them a bit of Loxicam or Metacam.
Yeah, because it's so. I don't feel like you should have to put.
I mean, we have that.
Yeah,
but most people don't have that in there. Exactly. I mean, we always have that.
Yeah, that's right. I think if you've got if you've got lots of dogs, then you're going to keep that, aren't you? But
yeah, okay, that's interesting. But definitely, you'd give them a clean and put some sort of
just artificial
some sort of cool. Okay.
I think you're not doing any harm. That's okay. You're not going to done any harm.
Okay. There was a question about my blind dog, because I did a podcast about him the other day. So Stevie Wonder, the blind dog who didn't have any eyes.
Yeah.
And I don't think you ever met him because he didn't have any eye problems. He just didn't have any flipping eyes. And like Neil can't exactly put 2 new ones in.
Nothing we can do.
Stevie with those eyes on, like, remember like kids' kind of glasses, with the sunglasses on springs, like bouncing around. I'm sure we did do that once for like a sort of Halloween party or something with him. One of the things I spoke about I did a video about him the other day, and I said that I think that because he didn't have any eyes, and the sort of general consensus, because as a puppy I offered him to the Dick vet as a kind of experiment. Like, do you want him to do an autopsy as a 4-week-old puppy? And then we decided actually, keep him alive and he was going to be okay. And the general consensus was mum had a virus. Eyes didn't form properly.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's right. So they were like, if we went and looked, we'd probably see.
He probably did have a tiny eye.
Early eye formation back in there. The fact that the eyes never, puppies' eyelids are stuck together. And then at 10 days old-ish, they open. Right. Now, when they do that, is that because the eye's coming? Like, is the eye growing? Like, what's the deal with that, or is it just kind of like?
No, it's to do with this idea that they're
just part of that. Their eyes open, their ears open. Because that's the other thing we didn't talk about with puppies is puppies' ears are also kind of closed, and they're
not able to process that information yet. So
no, but if you look at their ears,
they haven't fully opened.
They're not kind of.
It's the same as your eyelid. Your eyelid's not fully formed, so it just once it's fully formed.
So the bit that opens is kind of it's almost like your eyelids stuck together, and then just one day they start to open, and sometimes we just see them and they're open, and other times we see them half opening and like peeling apart.
That's right. That's right.
Is that just a sort of because basically a little bit like humans, puppies are too early to be in the world. So some of their development hasn't happened. And I mean, humans, however many hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, we started being born before we were ready to be born because our brains were too big to get, and when we walked on 2 feet rather than on 4, our pelvises or girls' pelvises got closer together. Head couldn't come out, etc. Like with dogs, obviously they're born in a burrow nest type, hidden away somewhere, so they can be kept safe. But is it because their eyes aren't fully developed at that?
It's just the whole idea that they've only had 63 days in the womb. So and often you've got multiple puppies, and there just isn't enough time for all of that to get to the point where it's actually fully functional by the time they come out.
Okay.
So, and because, as you say, they've evolved, so they're not. It's not like they're on the savannah or something like that. They don't need to be out and about.
No.
They need to be. They're fine to be
tucked in on.
Yeah, exactly, buried away.
So with Stevie and his lack of eyes, I sort of thought, I felt like he had the best nose of any dog I'd ever had.
Yeah.
And I said on the video, I think that his, human nature, or whether another nature, or whether his body individually just decided to sort of work its nose harder, I don't know. But his ears and his nose worked better than his eyes,
doesn't it? So if you could have somehow looked at his visual cortex, so the bits at the back of his brain that would have been there to process all those images, and takes up to 60% of the information at any one time coming to you.
Yeah.
That obviously didn't have anything to do, because it had no information coming to it. And so therefore everything else gets upregulated. So suddenly he can smell more accurately, or
so that brain capacity was being funneled to elsewhere.
Yeah. So he's like, suddenly he's got all these things that he can do really acutely. So
yeah. We're not going to talk about it now, but maybe for a future podcast, I want to talk about, because it's again very relatable to us and our dogs, and I want to give everyone a little bit to maybe look forward to. But I want to talk about about dogs' eyes, and the testing, and the genetic diseases, and the hereditary problems, and all the stuff that that we do, but we do it because we don't know much about it. And I imagine a lot of people who are watching this will have dogs from eye tested parents, or they do their eye test, and they probably just go, "Oh yeah, I do them because it's something we have to do," which is slightly where we all are with it. And I'd love to talk more about the specifics and what those problems can be, and how much they can affect a dog and stuff. So we're going to do that on another podcast in a few months' time. So that means you have to carry on watching, because I'm not going to tell you when it comes out. So thank you very much.
No, no, very good.
Thanks for coming. I look forward to
Thanks for the wine. No, it was very kind.
To next time. Thanks for watching.